Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking all things fertility and trying to conceive. So if you are on that journey or thinking about starting that journey to either grow your family or start your family, this is the place to be. And while we are certainly in that growth phase of our life, there are lots of things that are to be considered when you're starting your family. I might do a whole separate video on that, but if this is the first time that you're here, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Kitty. I'm a registered general nurse. I'm also an IBCLC International Board Certified Lactation Consultant, birth doula, postpartum doula. I am a hypnobirthing instructor and an antenatal educator, as well as a called mumma by 3 little people. And I love all things pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and I talk about all of this sort of stuff on my page. So make sure and hit that little subscribe button if you like that sort of content and if you are on that journey. This video is going to be all about the things that I am doing to prepare my body before trying for this next baby. I hope you enjoy. Really like formal with lots of statistics and lots of numbers, and then I did a poll on my Instagram and what sort of content you preferred, and the majority of you said that you actually preferred it was a more like a laid back approach. So here I am on my bed with a thing of notes in front of me and a pile of stuff that you might find interesting, but stuff that that will also be a nice reminder for me, because baby brain, the more babies you have, I feel like the more my brain just is like a sieve. The information goes in, then it just goes straight out. So when it comes to remembering things like this, I always take lots of little notes. And the first thing that I wanted to really start with before I dove into the things that I'm doing and changing to maximize my own fertility as well as my partner's fertility is I wanted to remind you about that fertility triad. It is not just about you, it's also about those 3 core variables. So yes, the health of the egg, but also the health of the sperm and that internal environment. So if there were to be some sort of imbalance there in terms of a very acidic environment, if there were some sort of blockage that's stopping the egg and the sperm from meeting, all of those things need to really be looked at from a whole. You could be eating the best diet, you could be taking all of the most wonderful supplements, and it still might not happen for you. Another little caveat to all of these tips and tricks that I'm going to be giving is that while I personally am taking some of these supplements, I would always recommend from a healthcare professional's perspective that while I am a nurse, I'm not your nurse. And so if you're looking to take any of these supplements or change up your diet a little bit, that it's worthwhile having your blood work done first and getting a really good gauge on where you're at, rather than going ahead and maybe overloading your system on something that it doesn't need. So let's start with the first thing that I'm doing to maximize my fertility. The first thing that I've been doing is actually something that I've done for quite a while now, and this is cutting out caffeine. And a lot of you are probably like, cutting out caffeine, and it was my only vice too for a very long time. I am not going out taking drugs and partying then at this time in my life. I'm not staying up late, I'm working hard and I'm momming hard, and as a result I was really tired during the day and I was relying on a lot of caffeine. And there is a fair bit of evidence that suggests that high caffeine usage has an increased risk of miscarriage. And so this was not something that I wanted to risk as a mama who has already lost 3 babies, and they have grown their little angel wings. I did not want that to happen again, and I'm doing everything that I can within my power to reduce the likelihood of that happening. And so what I have changed is moved from normal caffeine, normal coffee to decaf, but also added in adaptogenic mushrooms. So things like chaga, cordyceps, they're the ones that I particularly love, and then like reishi in the evening, and lion's mane is also lovely to give you like that little boost, but a more natural, gentle boost that is much more gentle on like your adrenal system and things like that. So I've been loving the Four Sigmatic brand and actually using them since my very first YouTube video on here, which was a video about trying to get your cycles back when you're still nursing your baby. Bearing in mind, this whole video is from the perspective of a mama who is still tandem feeding 2 babies. My cycles have returned, but I do attribute a lot of that to these lifestyle changes and to the things that I have done. So maybe I'll leave that other video link down, but it was a little bit cringy because it was the first time I've ever sat in front of a camera. But I feel like making that change from caffeine to no caffeine was like massive. I felt a difference in like the lack of like brain fog. I feel like I was almost always going around with like a dull level like headache. And perhaps I'm someone who's really very sensitive to caffeine, but I noticed a huge difference. I got a headache for like 2 days, and then like immediately I felt like a different human. So cutting out caffeine is the first thing. The next one is cutting out booze, so cutting out alcohol. And I'm not a huge alcohol person, but I do like to have a glass of wine every now and then. And so this is something that I changed at the same time as cutting out caffeine, which might be like a big jump for some of you, but cutting out that Friday night glass of wine was a no brainer for me, because again there is some evidence, particularly around women but also around your male partner, if you're conceiving with your male partner, that reduces the health and the vitality and the virility of your male partner. So that's something that's worthwhile considering, and something that we have done as a couple. Perhaps I should get Pete on here. We could talk a little bit about like male fertility and the things that he's doing. But they are two things that I started with before I even began looking at like some of the other things. So the next thing then is sleep. And this is something that I know was quite might sound almost like impossible to those of you who already have small babies, but as someone who is still bed sharing, co-sleeping in the family bed with two little ones, these are the things that I've been doing. Step number one is sleeping when I can. So if that means I get a window of opportunity during the day to get back into bed while my two littles are napping, I will try and nap with them if I can, if my work schedule isn't relying on that nap time. The other thing I will do is I will get back into bed as soon as I can when they go to bed. So if my littles are down, they're generally down around sometime around 7 o'clock. They go to bed, I will start to like unwind for the night. Again, this is work dependent, but particularly in a period of life where I'm trying to conceive and I'm maximizing my own health, I'm utilizing the time that I have to rest to ideally get that deep restorative sleep. And so things that I have been doing to help me switch off, because obviously I work for myself, I work generally morning, noon and night, whenever I have an opportunity. So my brain can be on, and it can be on with like 20 tabs open all the time. And I know those of you who are mamas know exactly what I'm talking about. But as a work from home, work for myself also person, it means that those 20 tabs never really close. And sometimes I could be lying in bed and like going, okay, come on, you need to sleep, kitty, you need to be like you're gonna need this energy tomorrow. But I find it really hard to switch off. So personally, I've been taking tart cherry juice mixed with some form of a calcium magnesium supplementation. I'll talk about supplementation in an entire different video, but these are the things that I'm just doing from like a general basis. And as a further layer to that, so adding on to getting any extra sleep that I can. I have a whole separate video on like maximizing your sleep as a mother and maximizing your rest as a mother, which there's a lot of really helpful tips in that. So I'll also leave that link down below. But getting back into bed as soon as I can, using the tart cherry juice, using some sort of a magnesium calcium supplement to help me just wind down. Sometimes that just means getting a basin of hot water, drop or two of lavender oil, and soaking my feet with an Epsom salt, like cup of Epsom salts in there, and that's a lovely way to get the magnesium in and a lovely way to just kind of like wind down. I've also focused in on my stress levels, and as someone who is like very go and finds it very difficult to decompress, I have been starting on meditation. I've picked up yoga again, so I go every Wednesday night. That's like my new thing. And I also have taken up attending acupuncture whenever I have an opportunity. My husband is now working really long hours at the moment, so it's not quite as easy to fit in, but that's been something that I've been really enjoying. I found has been really beneficial from many of my other birth clients as well. So they use that in that trying to conceive phase, and found that for balancing their cycles, for balancing their hormones, and for maintaining a pregnancy where they had otherwise experienced a loss, has been really, really helpful. So really just working on reducing my stress overall. So the next thing then is exercise and the way that I'm exercising. I have been known to both struggle with an eating disorder, but also utilizing exercise for all of the wrong reasons. So using it to like combat something that I'd eaten the other day, or focusing on like losing weight. And now I'm at a point in my life where it's all about nourishing my body, and I'm really leaning into that in this trying to conceive phase just as much as I have been. So where I previously would have maybe pushed my body to the extremes, whether that was lifting really heavy, running really fast or really far, I now listen into my body and doing what my cycle is leading me to do, but also what feels good. So if you are maybe an ultra marathon runner, now is maybe the time to dial that down a little bit. Maybe you are super into heavy lifting, but you're into bodybuilding. Again, now would be the time to go into a little bit of a bulk phase, or just take it down a notch. And so my exercise looks very, very different than how it used to. The other thing that I like to look at is, alongside supplementation, is my overall health in terms of diet. So this might be a little bit controversial, but as someone who has been vegan for a very long time, I should possibly do a whole video on why we've changed our tune on this, but we are now eating meat again. And as well as eating meat, we are also eating liver and organs and things like that, and we're, nose to tail, and benefiting from that hugely. As soon as I started implementing this way of living and eating, my cycles came back like that. My body was definitely missing something. And one of the other things that we do, and I do every single day, is I make sure that I'm eating at least 2 eggs a day. 2 eggs will give you the amount of choline that you need, which is imperative for infant brain development. So that has been hugely beneficial, and a really nice way to be able to get that naturally from the source, as opposed to having to spend a huge amount of money on supplements and remembering to take those supplements every single day. Never mind the fact that a lot of that isn't necessarily absorbed into the system terribly well. Another thing that we take is we eat a lot of fish. I will also show you some of the supplements that I take that are food related supplements, and not like supplements you buy in like tablet form, perhaps. So the first one that I will say is, let me see where I start. As a mum who is still breastfeeding and runs like quite a stressful business, my stress levels are up here. So they gobble into particularly your magnesium, your potassium, and your sodium. And as a result, we need to bring those back into our system. And so this is something that I've been implementing in the form of an adrenal cocktail on a daily basis. I will take maybe 1, maybe 2. Most of the time I take them at nighttime, because I find that magnesium helps me to wind down if I'm not doing like an Epsom salt foot soak. And these are the ones that I've been loving. Excuse me, I'm a bit sniffly with hay fever. This is the Element. It's actually just an electrolyte mix, but this is the no sugar version. So it comes in citrus salt, raspberry salt, orange salt, and watermelon salt, and it's got no sugar. And the ingredients are really, really lovely, very, very basic, and literally are magnesium, potassium, natural flavors with stevia, and salt. These are very salty, I will say, but like the first time I tried them, I was like, this is revolting. How is anyone drinking them? They come in these cute little sachets. This is like the sample pack. Watermelon, I will say, is not my favorite. I think I like the raspberry one, or maybe the lemon one best. Mixing that into plain water, and then I've been just drinking it out of this, what is this bottle, stainless steel bottle, and leaving that beside my bed and like sipping away on that during the night. I crave this stuff like crazy during the daytime. It's insane. And I find that like that's definitely helped lift the brain fog. I've got much more clarity of thought. Really, really nice. And I know it feels like it's really feeding those cells, like charging up my cells, which is really lovely. And alternatively, if I don't have access to the Element ones, which are a little bit more expensive, I will say, I will use these trace mineral drops, which have a very similar composition, but they, literally magnesium, chloride, sodium, potassium. And I will put a pinch of salt, few drops of this, and then some fresh squeezed orange juice on top. I will say this tastes pretty gross as well, but super, super lovely for like giving your body everything that it needs from a supplementation perspective and just recharging your body. Another thing that I will say that is not like a supplement per se that you take like in a tablet form is seaweed. And seaweed is one of those things, in particular, down to the iodine content in it. So this is carrageen and this is kombu. Both of these are like from a lovely Irish brand. I'll see, can I open it up? It's literally flaked seaweed, flaked so much so that you can actually just sprinkle it on your food. Or I will add it into like our salt shaker and the kids don't even know that it's there. And this is so lovely for the iodine content and for thyroid function. And as many of you may know, if your thyroid function is impaired, so it's not working to its utmost, it's not as working as well as it should be, if you either have an overactive thyroid or, on the other conversely, an underactive thyroid, both of those can impact not only your lactation but also your ability to conceive. So this is one way that I'm minding my iodine content, and surprisingly, not in the US or in Ireland, but in many other European countries, they prescribe iodine from the start of pregnancy or from the start of your trying to conceive journey. So I'm expecting that alongside choline will be something that will start to be introduced in the next few years. But outside of that, we just recommend folate. And the way that I mind myself with my folate is I make sure that I'm getting it in whole foods. I focus on whole foods as being the primary source of all of these things. The next thing that I look at is, I'm trying not to show you like too many supplements and pills because I'll do a separate video on that. But the last two things really is I've started introducing a lot of like herbal supplements and concoctions. The reason for that is that it's nettle season here in Ireland, so I've literally got nettle, lady's mantle and cleavers down the bottom, and I have them drying out all over the house at the moment. I'm in kind of a witchy phase, may I say, but when I haven't been drinking coffee in the same way, I've still been craving that like warm cup of something. So I've got a little cup of herbal tea here that I've been sipping away on. You can do it iced with a bit of maple syrup, and nettle in particular is really lovely because, as we know, in pregnancy our blood volume expands to be able to support not only your baby but also the growth of placenta, all that lovely amniotic fluid, and as a result our iron levels can sometimes drop, and nettle is one of the best ways that I have found to be able to boost those iron levels really quickly and easily, and it's a lovely way to really nourish and support your body. So I've been doing lots of herbal teas with those. And then the last thing, outside of doing like an entire supplementation video and looking at all of that, is I've been adding in, this is from Shinshir Supplements. It's an organ supplement from healthy free-range animals, free of antibiotics, grass and wild herb fed, no artificial anything. And this is just powdered organs that I will sprinkle into my like lasagna mix or bolognese or anything that's kind of like tomato-y based, so it's the flavor is kind of disguised, but my kids don't even know that it's in it. It's a lovely way for me to nourish my entire family and give them everything that they need and nourish my body in the way that I know it needs. So they are the big things that I've been doing to nourish my fertility. Is there anything else that I've forgotten? Yeah, addressing kind of vitamin and mineral deficiencies. I got my blood work done very early on when we started thinking about having another baby, to make sure that when it came to supplementation and addressing deficiencies in my diet, that I was coming at it from an evidence-based perspective, knowing where my body was sitting in that moment. The other thing as well that I like to look at is cutting down on free sugars. So making sure that I'm balancing my blood sugar levels during the day, that I'm eating enough, and that when I am eating, that I'm eating a mixture of proteins, fats, and a little bit of carbohydrates, and not any like free carbohydrates or free sugars if I can help it. So if I want a treat, I'll make sure that I'm also having like a chunk of cheese, or if I'm having, crackers and honey, I'll have a little bit of ham with it or something like that. So that's been really, really helpful. And yeah, making sure that I typically will have like those 2 eggs for breakfast and have like a protein only breakfast, and that really sets me up for the day then in terms of regulating my blood sugar levels. And I really notice now, I'm noticing it more in my kids, that when they miss a meal, that it's almost instantaneous, and similarly so for myself. So just in the same way that I wouldn't let my kids go hungry, I'm trying not to let myself go hungry, which is one of the bigger lessons that I'm learning in motherhood. I hope you found this video helpful, and let me know if you've enjoyed it, and keep an eye out for other videos relating to fertility and that phase in your and my life. And send all of the baby dust this way, and I'll send all the baby dust your way. Thank you for being here, and thank you for watching.